73rd session of the United Nations General Assembly is about to begin. I'm here in New York and I'm speaking to you who are thousands of miles away, and I'd just like to refresh our memories of what this is all about. Now, let's begin with the Charter of the United Nations, and this is the reason for all the endeavours of the General Assembly. Now, the United Nations was founded to save succeeding generations from the scourge of war. And to do this, apart from the international machinery used, they invited us all to practice tolerance and live together in peace with one another as good neighbours. They determined to reaffirm faith in the fundamental human rights and the dignity and worth of the human person, in the equal rights of men and women and of nations large and small. Now, let's just remember that this was after a massive Second World War. And it was also determined to promote social progress and better standards of life in larger freedom. And with this, it would lead to peace for everybody, peace and equality in our world. So that is what the United Nations has been trying to do over these years. Now, the session that begins today is the 73rd session. So that means that every year, in the month of September, a new kind of UN year begins. If you think of it in terms of the school years or the fiscal year, just think of it in those terms. Right now, president is elected for each annual General Assembly. This year, the president is Maria Fernandez Espinosa. She's from Ecuador, and she's actually the fourth woman to be president of the General Assembly. This is a very interesting point, I think, in the empowerment of women. The UN General Assembly is the time, and I think we hear about it more because our heads of government and heads of state come to New York and they address the whole assembly about their concerns and what they think is important in the world today and what needs to be done by the United Nations. So we will be aware of our heads of state or heads of government here these days. But apart from that, during the General Assembly, we have what is called the general debate. And that means that every country, the diplomats from each country, they address the concerns they want to see worked on during the coming year. With this, they also include or they carry on the work that has been done last year, because it's not a case of everything ending and we start anew. No, we continue and then we incorporate the new issues that need to be addressed. So I think that is important for us to know. Then during this time as well, there are many special events, and these are situations of learning for all involved, and there are meetings where people share knowledge and learnings and especially look at good practice, because these are the places where countries learn from one another, and not only countries and governments but civil society and all the other organizations. We learn from one another what's helping make the world a better place and how can we go about it. So it's a very good place for sharing. Now, the opening of the General Assembly goes on for about 2 weeks. And then at the end of September, the beginning of October, the heads of state have all gone back to their own countries, and then their representatives remain here in New York, and the members of the diplomats from each country remain here. And then they get down to the specific work of the General Assembly. And this is done through 6 different committees. Now, 6 committees, so they all divide into 6 committees. The committees I think that we would be most aware of or that are most relevant for us are the first committee, it's on questions of peace and security. The second committee is about finance. They work on all the financial issues worldwide and how the financial system can help the improvement of the world in its totality. And the third committee is on economic and social issues. That is where NGOs like ours are mainly involved. Now, this work goes on until December, and it's a very a kind of interesting time. And during that time as well, we have other what we call special events that are taken up. These are apart from the works on the committee. And for example, one huge event this year is actually going to be the adoption of the Global Compact on safe and orderly migration. And this will actually take place in Marrakesh, Morocco. Then after Christmas, another organ of the United Nations, which is ECOSOC, and this is where civil society has its inroad into the UN system. The work of ECOSOC begins after Christmas and goes on right until next July, and this is where commissions and forums begin. And at a later stage, I'll tell you about how we're involved in these commissions and forum and what we're going to do this year. So I hope that has been helpful for you. Thank you for listening.